G'day everyone, welcome to the Outback Packers podcast, the podcast where two mates from all the way across the world have a yarn talking Packers football and the green and gold. I'm Nick Gregory, joined by my co-host, as always, Joe Pearson, and today we try to play Mortician, conducting an autopsy on the corpse of Green Bay. And it's definitely a corpse at this point. I'm feeling, we've discussed a little bit before the show, they're not mathematically eliminated by any stretch of the imagination just yet, but there's not much life left, I'll tell you that.
Well, then I don't agree with you that it's a corpse. Right now we're on life support, and you're trying to pull the plug, but I haven't pulled the plug yet, so I've got a stay of execution.
Let's say like a vegetative state.
Exactly. So as long as the life support's there, I just as Yogi Berra would say, it's not over till it's over, and I can't give up on the team no matter how shitty they're playing until it's actually impossible for them to even sneak in a wild card. And like we talked about earlier, with as shitty as the NFC has been this year, there is still a chance that the Packers could nail a wild card spot with the expanded playoffs and all that other bullshit. So until that final beep beep, I can't really say that it's over.
Well, it's true. We could technically get a wild card spot, but also if we lose every single game for the rest of the season, we have an 80% chance at the number one overall pick.
But who are you going to take? That's the main problem.
Bryce Young.
Because that's the thing everybody...
Bryce
there's a
Young.
lot of questions around him. Because I don't know. I really haven't dug into the draft for a long time, but to my mind, who was the last Alabama quarterback to really do anything in the NFL?
Tua's been pretty good.
Now,
yeah,
this year, it took him a while to get to it.
It's the same with all quarterbacks.
You could theoretically say Jalen Hurts, but he left to go to Oklahoma before getting drafted. So I mean, really, it's the Alabama quarterbacks kind of scare me like the Ohio State quarterbacks because there's not a lot of success there. You get an outlier here or there, but they're not all. They're not a. Oh, how you want to call it? They're not. I don't want to say a guarantee because nothing in the draft is guaranteed, but they're not something to be relied upon.
No, absolutely not. I think so. Quickly before we get into the review here, I just want to say I think it is quite funny because it is true. Alabama doesn't have the greatest record of quarterback development, but I think thinking about that, it's quite a funny statement because I don't really think that any school does. I mean, look, you have you could say maybe Oklahoma in the past couple of years, but there's not really any university you look at and you're like, oh yeah, they're banging out starting quarterbacks every 3 years. It's the whole thing that because it's such a good school, they always have great production no matter who's behind center. Really, the receiver qualities are so high there. Last thing I'll say before we move on to the catch up is that I really, really like Bryce Young. And I think if we do end up in that top 5 pick range, I would have absolutely zero issue if they picked him.
I've said this a lot of times before, but I'm going to make sure I say it anytime you want to bring up the draft. This is how I think it's going to work. And I'm not going to guarantee it, but this would not surprise me one bit. Aaron Rodgers retires at the end of the year. And Gutekunst still take a wide receiver in the first round.
Yeah. That would be the final punchline to end this joke of a season, I think.
Because really think about it, if you could pinpoint the biggest need on the team right now as you look at it, what would it be?
Yeah, I mean, everything, but
but I mean the one biggest. What's the one thing people are complaining about the most, other than Rodgers, is a wide receiver. So It would not surprise me. And if you go by the rumors, Goody's been trying to get a first round receiver the last 3 years,
Yeah.
but it just seems like the board never falls that way. So it would not surprise me that they convinced Rodgers to retire at the end of the year, however they do it, and they take a receiver in the first round.
It would be pretty hilarious.
Because
So
let's
with
face it, I
that,
think Rodgers is going to retire and completely obliterate the Packer organization. I don't think there's going to be any goodwill between the two of them anyway.
oh,
So you might as well
he
go for the whole coup de grace.
he does not give a single fuck about this organization once he's done. I don't think. I mean, he'll say he does, but we all know how spiteful he is, and yeah, it would not be surprising at all. Um, yeah, and so with that, we'll get into the weekly catch up. So here we are, already 9 weeks into the season, and I mean, God, it flies past. I can't believe we're already a week into November, and maybe things haven't checked out as we wanted them to, but like I said on a very early episode, this is really the point of the season where I feel that you can truly understand what each team actually looks like. And of course, there's still room to grow, still room to develop, but this is the time when you can start making accurate assessments of all the teams, all the contenders, who's consistent, who looks like they're just a flash in the pan. The NFC, it's pretty defined at the top. I feel like it's actually quite top heavy. There is quite a mix of the in between teams, but in my opinion, regardless of seeding, I feel like the Eagles and the Cowboys have really separated themselves from the rest of the pack in the NFC. And we'll get into seeding a bit later. It's not exactly what I would have predicted prior to the season, but it's cool to see. And these teams are great, playing fantastic football.
But I go back to the any given Sunday thing. Even though we can get a good glimpse of what these guys are, anything could happen between now and the end of the year where they could completely drop off and lose out the rest of the year and then they miss the playoffs. It's not impossible to see that. Just like the Packers could go on a run and make the playoffs. So I mean, the Eagles look like they're pretty legit right now, but Jalen Hurts, is he really he's been playing well, but is he going to continue to play well or is he going to struggle? Uh, the Vikings are notorious for dropping off, so it would not surprise me to see them fall off the table at some point. The Seahawks, Geno Smith has been playing like he's been possessed, and who knows what he's going to do because this is uncharted territory for him. So I mean, yeah, you can get the feel for him, but any given Sunday, anything could happen. I mean, look at the Packers game. Look how many guys dropped out of the Packers game this past Sunday. Something happens like that to the Vikings, they're probably going to be done.
Yeah, it's always so hard, and I mean, granted they still won the Super Bowl, but 5 years ago, at the point of the season where Wentz was a locked in MVP candidate, he tore his ACL in the final stretch of the season, and the outlook for them totally changed. And obviously, it ended up being good in a way, but like you said, anything can happen any Sunday. You never know who's going to get injured or what could happen or who could come back. It's there's always room for things to change, but I think this is a good point for us to start a little bit of self-reflection as well as we kind of move on to these mid-season review and superlatives. If you want to start, we can go over our MVP of the year so far. Do you want to take it away, Joe?
No, because as we talked about earlier, I really struggled trying to pick people on this because this whole team has played like shit. I mean, we even got to the point where we were having a hard time coming up with them that we're going to combine the MVP and the Defensive Player of the Year, and that's been Rashawn Gary. And that sucks because now he's out for the season with a torn ACL, so we're without our MVP slash Defensive Player of the Year. But that's who I went with anyway, just because he's been the only one that's really. I mean, you could probably slot in Jair, because he's played pretty decent outside of a few mishaps and running his mouth and all that stuff. But if you had to go with anybody, I guess Rashawn would be the one to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a little bit of a cop out answer, but yeah, I think mixing Rashan as the MVP slash defensive player of the year, I think is actually really accurate to how I feel personally as well. Like this defense operates entirely on the premise of getting your edge rushers on one-on-one matchups and trusting them to win on a consistent basis, right? And when you have Preston on one side, Rashan on the other side, who's been, by all accounts, at least top five edge rusher in terms of pressure rates and rushing the passer anyway. And the numbers that he's able to put up every single week, the way he gets pressures, the way he gets sacks almost every single game, it's really amazing to see. And it's going to be such a massive loss for this defense because even if you have Kingsley and Agbury coming in behind him, and even if he plays, well and he's a little bit slippery, he's not that dominant, non-stop big ball of energy that Rashan is, and he's not just going to be as relentless and as skilled. I mean, it's his first season. You would never expect that. But I think this is going to be a devastating loss for this team in terms of morale even, and it's going to really change the way that we look at this already struggling defense, in my opinion.
I can't really add any more to that other than I'm sure Green Bay and or Gutekunst and them are working the free agent wire to find somebody. Maybe they're even trying to put in a call to Whitney Merciless and say, "Hey, can you at least come back for you know however many games are left and give us a little bit of a boost and go from there." But I don't know. Like I said, I really struggled when Nick put this stuff out there. I really struggled picking anybody for anything because, yeah, it's been a complete shit show so far this year. So why don't you go ahead and do our offensive one?
So I think the offensive player of the year, I think, is a pretty easy one. I think it's the same name that's on everyone's lips, Aaron Jones. In the times when he's been allowed to touch the ball or even look at it, he's taken it and ran with it. I mean, he's put up a fantastic average this year, and he's consistently doing a good job. And he's the only one who can really consistently break off these chunk explosive plays for the offense. And I mean, people always complain about how much you see AJ Dillon out there. That's just because, I mean, part of the reason of that is because Aaron Jones can be slotted anywhere in the offense. I mean, you see him out wide quite often, and they use him as a bit of a Swiss Army knife around the offense. And I think everyone agrees that he doesn't get the ball nearly as much as he should. And that's just a testament to how skilled he is. And when they do run the offense through him, like we saw in the Buffalo game, he can take over a game, and he's always had that capacity to just take over games. And hopefully this upcoming week versus Dallas, we'll see. Maybe he brings back some of that hometown magic, like that 4 touchdown game we had a few years ago. But yeah, I don't think there's any question about who the most valuable or most effective player in the offense is so far.
Yeah, it's really he's about the only one because the receivers really haven't been great. The offensive line really hasn't been much. I mean, theoretically, if you wanted to go an offensive lineman, I would probably say maybe Runyon because he's been pretty reliable all year and pretty stout. Maybe Josh Myers because he hasn't screwed up as much as you would think he did the way he was playing when Royce Newman was beside him. Um, So yeah, again, I sound like a broken record, but I really struggled picking anybody. So uh, the next one would be rookie of the year, and I tried to say nobody, but Nick kept pestering me, so I finally came up with Dobbs, just because out of all of them, he's been the most productive. Which, like I was telling Nick, it's kind of sad when he's been the most productive, yet he's still not been that great. And considering he was the fourth rounder and they spent so much to get Christian Watson, and it's been gross. That's all I can say. It's been gross. Dobbs has been decent, but he's had his ups and downs, and I I'll get into this more later, but the whole rookie class just hasn't been great.
Yeah, I think with rookies, it's all about potential, right? And in my opinion, why Dobbs should be the rookie of the year for our team is because of his potential. I think what he's flashed, again, like Aaron Jones, when he's been allowed to touch the ball, when Rodgers feels like throwing him the ball every once in a while, he's often wide open or NFL open. He has a bit of juice. He has energy, and we all hear the stories about how motivated he is even off the field, and how he pushes super hard every single day to just be the best version of himself. And he's had struggles, and every single rookie has struggles, unless you're Randy Moss or Justin Jefferson. You know, he's a guy that I think has so much ability and talent. I would not be surprised at all in the next 3 or 4 years if he becomes that standout wide receiver one with a little bit more development and comfort in the offense, and whatever quarterback ends up playing for us in the future. I have no doubt that the guys want him around for a very long time on this team.
There's no doubt, and I'm not saying he's this trash player on a trash team. You don't, but it's been underwhelming all across the board. And like I said, I'll get into it a little bit more in a little bit. But our next one is comeback player, and I think this one's a little bit easier, just because I think a lot of people wrote him off and as he was being done, and that's David Bakhtiari. I put him as a comeback player because even though he's not been playing every down of every game so far, like I said, he everybody pretty much wrote him off because it'd been 2 years, almost 2 full years without playing hardly anything, and all the struggles with the surgeries and the issues, and just to see him play anything has been amazing. So that's who I picked as our comeback player.
Yeah, for sure. And again, I think this is another one that the answer is quite obvious for most people. I would like to provide a little bit of a secondary candidate, and I think that's Jair. He's had his moments this season with, he's struggling a little bit, whether that's him or the scheme, blah blah blah. But he's a guy who was also out for the season, and he's come back just about right off where he left, and he's someone that we can still rely upon to be, a good leadership presence, a fantastic player. He's been probably top like 7 or top 5 or 7 corner this year. He's been playing fantastic, and yeah, exact same reasons as Buck. I think he's also been really nice to have back on this defense.
And now we get into the fun ones. Most disappointing. I said everybody, but then again, like I said, Nick said I couldn't just do everybody, so I just went. I kind of narrowed it down just to defense, because we were all led to believe that this was going to be a top 5 defense, and they were going to, we had playmakers all over the field, and it was nobody was going to be able to do anything. They fixed the run defense. We had top 3 guys at the cornerback position. We added a young linebacker that was a every down sideline to sideline guy, and while while they've passing wise, they've been able to protect a little bit, and they've held teams down to, teams really haven't been scoring tons of points against the Packers. I don't see them as a top 5 anything. So that's my biggest disappointment.
Yeah, it's hard because on one end of the spectrum, by yardage, they are a fantastic defense still, and what was it like even just a game ago or leading into this Detroit game, they were second ranked defense by yardage, pass yardage. And the thing is that we can talk about this a little bit down the line here, but they're a defense that's built to defend the pass. That's their identity, and they haven't really had the ability to do that consistently or on a lot of their snaps because teams don't have to pass the ball against them. It's just so easy to run the ball, and there's no urgency for these opposing offenses because they're usually so far ahead that it doesn't really matter. They can just chill out, run the ball. They can just push these defensive ends and linebackers out of the way, and it's so easy for them to just get manipulated or caught up in the miscommunication. And the thing it hurts so much because there are moments when they're so good, and we see it for a quarter at a time or half at a time that just absolutely shut down opposing offenses. And those are the moments where you're like, yes, I believe it can be so good. And some of it is coaching, some of it is talent, some of it is the lack of talent slash regression. It's just quite painful because it is very disappointing. This was supposed to be the team, the heart of the team right here. And even when they've been good, they haven't been good enough to pick up the offense or carry a game on their own, really. So, yeah, it sucks to see. It's disappointing. And
Well, and I got to give them a little bit that when you've got an offense that's disappointing even more than the defense is, the defense will have a stop, but then the offense comes out and goes 3 and out right away. It hurts the defense more because they're not getting the breaks and whatever. But I will give them that a little bit that's hindered them in some of these games, but in others they've just come out and not been that great. So if I had to say one, it would be the defense. But I said the whole team. So
it's very fair. And just to finish up here, I think the last superlative we're going to go over is the biggest surprise of the season. And for us, we chose that the rookie class hasn't contributed as much as we expected slash wanted. And I think a lot of these guys came in as people who could slot in and resemble Christian Watson, someone who wasn't necessarily a very talented like receiver catching the ball or very developed like receiving talent, but someone who could slot in and he could block very consistently and he could just be on the field as a big help. Or someone like Zach Tom or Sean Ryan could theoretically compete for the guard job. Someone like Kingsley and Agbury should be able to slot in as immediate, reliable edge depth. And, even the first rounders, Devontae Wyatt is barely seen the field, and he has been good in recent snaps when he's been on the field, but he's just not there. And Quay Walker, he's a young linebacker. As I go on, I always compare him to a very like early career Devin White, someone who's so physical and fast, but mentally is not capable of being that green dot guy just yet, or someone who can control a passing game. Like, he can't dominate the middle of the field just yet. And I think that's not what the Packers wanted or necessarily thought they were getting out of this class. And it just sucks because we had so many resources entering this draft, and to see both of your first round defensive players not live up to what they're supposed to be doing. And some of it is injuries, some of it is coaching, some of it is just Aaron Rodgers does not feel like throwing to the rookies half the time. It's hard to watch sometimes.
well, and like we discussed before starting recording, it always felt like in past uh, draft classes, you at least had one that came out and played lights out. And it just seems like there's none of them in this year's draft class that are doing that. Dobbs hasn't been terrible, but he's not been that lights out guy. Like you said, between injuries and raw talent, Watson hasn't really been doing anything. I I I guess you could say Zach Tom has filled in pretty good, but it just none of them have been the bright spot in this draft class. So yeah, my biggest surprise is that nobody stepped up there yet, especially when there were so many openings for there to be one of them to step up into.
For sure, for sure. And I think, again, they're all rookies, and we shouldn't have expected them to fill into big time starting roles straight away. But just the kind of refusal to play some of these guys, and even someone like Samori Toure, who's not even really hadn't really been getting involved until the slew of injuries. It does suck. And another one
Well,
I want to
there's one
add.
thing that makes me mad about the Toure thing is I think it was on one of was it last week's or the week before, and I don't know because I don't watch the Pat McAfee show, but I do occasionally see the clips or somebody posts a quote or whatever. But it was early on in the season Rogers went up and told Samori Toure that I don't know why you're a healthy scratch. You're you really look good on the field and you look like a vet and blah blah blah. It's like, so then why aren't you going to LaFleur and saying, "Hey, we're struggling right now. Let's get this guy into the game. Let's get him some plays and whatever." So it really pissed me off when I saw that quote, just because you're throwing a fit that you don't have anybody to throw to, but you're complimenting a guy because he's somebody you want to throw to, but you won't go to bat for him and get him into the game plan.
Yeah, and actually, in the past couple of games, I've really loved watching love watching Toure. He's been so entertaining and so savvy as a rookie. Oh my god! Like, I really want to talk about this when we get into the preview for the next game. But the way he can already adapt, and he really has a little bit of a like somewhat of a connection with what Rogers wants to do. And like this even just this game, he could have genuinely gone for almost 200 yards and even 2 touchdowns if the balls that he was throwing were actually on target. I mean, he played fantastically this game, admittedly against a weak defense, literally the worst defense in the league, but you never take that for granted, especially from a rookie. It's cool. It's like it's promising. It's fun.
Right, and he's shown flashes in what was it, the Bills game on that
Mhm.
he had the touchdown in the Bills game, right?
Yeah, that big one in the end zone. He was like a bit of a effect to the corner, and he comes back inside. It's like a second reaction, scramble play. Really, really cool.
Right, and it's like he's been playing with Rodgers for a dozen years now because he knew to get open on a scramble play. So again, that makes me even more mad when I go back to this quote. Oh well, I don't understand why you're being a healthy scratch week in and week out. Well, you know what, you asshole, go to Matt, go to LaFleur and say, hey, let's get him in there instead of Hammy Watkins or
Ugh.
Lazard's hurting right now. Get him in there, let him make some plays. But no, well, I'll just keep pumping his ego up in practice and deflating it again when it comes to game time.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I'm on
And
a rant because that just really
no,
pissed me off.
no, fair enough. If only there was someone who could do something about this.
Yeah, no shit, right?
um, so yeah, with that, the wrap up of the mid-season review, I think it's probably not the answers anyone really wanted, but it's good. It's always good to just reflect and look exactly where the team went wrong, and always try to look for some kind of positives because this team hasn't lived up to the expectations, but they still have so much talent on the roster, and I don't think that a theoretical rebuild will take as long as some people think it might. And there is a lot here to work with. There is still a chance for this to be turned around in 2 or maybe even 3 years. It's always I'm always an optimist and someone who likes to look at the positives as well as the negatives. But we need it. Like I hate to be the fan or follower of a team of any kind who is just kind of complaining about things that they see or like they think that they see, but they don't truly understand. I think as people who follow the sport, you need to. If you're really passionate about it and you're really interested in it, it's in your best interest to actually understand why things are going wrong. And not just they need to run the ball more, they need to play less zone coverage. And sometimes those things can be true or related to the truth, but this having these simplified statements and not understanding the actual workings of your team only goes to the detriment of your own knowledge of the game and spreading around like dumb bit of like reductive takes. Really kind of just like lessens the value of everyone, everyone's opinions in that kind of scenario. So I think it's always, long story short, I think it's always good in my opinion to have a close look under the magnifying lens of what exactly is going on with this team.
So you're telling me I didn't know what I was talking about when I told them that they needed to run less zone and more man coverage?
um, yes,
Gee,
exactly.
thanks.
You
Tell me I
specifically.
don't know nothing.
You specifically. I
I,
hate you.
I mean, me sitting here for the last month saying that we needed to run more man than zone, and maybe hit the open guy instead of trying to feed the ball in between, three defenders. So you're telling me that that was all just nothing? Thanks, Nick.
In,
Thanks.
in my opinion, Rogers should be throwing to the receivers that are not on the field. I think when he completes a pass, that's actually bad.
And you thought my takes were wrong. Jeez.
um, so yeah, I mean, like, look, let's start getting into this Lions game, and you know, I say this as we've been joking around a little bit here, but this is a game where the Lions' approach to stopping the Packers defense was to kind of dare them to throw the ball a little bit more. I mean, they kind of like honed in on the runs a little bit, and expanding on this thing that I just talked about, when people want the offense to run the ball more, it's a good idea in theory, and of course you want to get Aaron Jones' hands on the ball as much as you can, but running the ball isn't the only way to do that, and it's not necessarily always the best way to do that. And in this game, I think is a good example of how the Packers kind of took advantage of that. The Lions expected them to want to run the ball a bit more, or they dared them to throw the ball because they didn't think that they would be able to do it well. And for a large portion of this game, they actually did. I mean, they moved the ball quite effectively. It was one of the first games, and one of the only games, where they made their way all the way across the field multiple times, and they had themselves in good position to score. It's just the fact that they didn't finish. But this is a team that they are not a good run blocking team. And I think they are aware of that, which is why they continue to persistently throw, even when maybe they shouldn't as much as they do sometimes. But there are reasons to the way this team operates, and this is a game where we saw it pay off. And even if it was against a really awful defense, the fact that they could get the ball moving is nice to see. It's just those crushing drive-ending interceptions, which we'll talk about in a minute here. It's like so brutal because we were on the goal line multiple times in this game.
But it's not just this game. I think about the Buccaneers game that the Packers seemed to be able to drive down the field, but then it would stall out.
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo, they were able to drive down the field and it would stall out. Uh, the Vikings game, in a way, was kind of the same way. They were able to drive the field a little bit and then it would stall out. So, I mean, it's like they run out of a gas at a certain point, and they just, I don't know. I know it goes back to Rodgers, and yeah, he's struggling with to. If we really want to, I can go on a major rant on that one too. But he's really struggling to build chemistry with his receivers. But I mean, when you do look at it from the fan perspective, and I know you see a lot of guys on Twitter and the social medias where they're taking pictures and clips from the All 22 and saying, oh, well, he had Lazard and Tunyon wide open down the middle and he tried to feed the ball in. And that's basically what's been happening. I don't know if he's not seeing the field clearly. I don't know if he's not trusting certain people and don't want to push the ball to him. Was he getting gun shy there for a moment after throwing 3 interceptions in the game? Uh, I don't know. I just know that a lot of it is coming back to Rodgers. I know he's having issues with the hand. Obviously, when you're throwing a football and you hurt one of your appendages on your hand that holds the ball, you're not gonna fling it as great as you could. But he was just missing on a lot of what used to be easy throws for him. Like you said, Toure could have easily eclipsed 160 yards and 2 TDs if Rodgers would just have led him a little bit more instead of throwing short, or some of the interceptions he threw, like the one, and I understand it, but I'm kind of confused about it, where they tried to get cute and throw a touchdown pass to Bakhtiari that got intercepted by Hutchinson. If he would have, lofted it a little bit more or threw a bullet I don't think Hutchinson would have had a chance at it, but he put just enough touch on it that Hutchinson had more of a chance than Bakhtiari did. So I don't know. This is something I was talking with somebody else about, that it's not that he doesn't have the arm strength anymore. He's not like some of these other quarterbacks where when they got older they were losing arm. They still had it mentally where they could, see where they needed to put the ball, and but just didn't have the arm strength to do it. He's still got the strength, he just doesn't seem to have the touch anymore. And it's mind-boggling with it. So is his hand really bothering him that much that he can't get the ball where he's thinking it needs to go, or what? So I don't know.
Yeah, no, that is very true. I think the most like the hardest part to watch about his game this year is how mentally he has deteriorated or regressed so hardly this season. I mean, it's just mind blowing. Like you see, um, guys like Andy Herman and like even Peter Bukowski, Ben Fennell do like great breakdowns of these
Ooh,
kind of
that's a
things.
bad name right now.
Who, Ben Fennell?
No, Peter Bukowski.
He's all right. He's yeah. Anyway, so yeah, you see Rogers, like DeGuara comes open on the, I think it's like an angle or a slant route, and Rogers is staring directly at him, and he's wide open by like 3 yards, and he just turns around and looks somewhere else and just doesn't complete the pass or whatever. It's like, it's not even a case where it's like, oh, I'm not sure if I can really fit that in there. He's just blatantly ignoring his open reads half the time, or like you said, he's just not seeing the field well. His post snap reads are just non-existent at this point, and it's so bizarre to see. He's playing like a college quarterback at the moment, and it's really weird. Like those throws with Samori Toure, for example. I mean, it's a second reaction kind of thing, and he throws the ball into open grass and lets Samori kind of like adjust to it. And that was like last week, right? The one in the end zone goes for a touchdown. You see this one, this time, there's that ball on the right hash, and I think Samori's running like a fade, and Rogers throws it like really heavily inside. And the crazy adjustment that Toure has to do just to fucking like even be aware the ball is near him is crazy. And like credit to him for catching that, but it's like this offense makes things so hard at the moment, partially just because Aaron Rodgers is not seeing things well at all. And I don't know where he's clamoring for more like hurry up, or he wants to do more of the hardcore drop back stuff like he used to. But it's just like, dude, you are like letting this team down. And this like, make no mistake, this game was lost because of Aaron Rodgers. Like this was a very, 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 very winnable game that could have easily been like, 28-15 or even bigger of a disparity. But he's just like making such easy mistakes that he never used to, and it's so strange. And teams have really started taking advantage of his like tendencies this season. And there was a really fantastic Brett Coleman video that came out this week that covers a lot of that stuff as well. But it's just like so bizarre, man. So strange.
I have to give him a little bit of credit though, that he was actually running the ball when he had to. And that's something we haven't seen out of him in a while. And
That's the
I
wrong
mean,
Aaron.
it's the wrong Aaron, but it still was.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was nice to see, because like I said, we haven't seen it in a while, because he would get out of the pocket and then he would try to throw the ball down the field, or he would just throw it away when he looked like he had plenty of room to run and at least get a good chunk of yardage back. So I mean, I was really happy to at least see that part of it come back into play. But you know what? And this may be partially joke or whatever, but dude, lay off the shrooms and get your head straight.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I yeah, I don't know. With the like, okay, the last thing I want to talk about here with Aaron Rodgers in this game, because I think we kind of like talked about a lot of what we're seeing here, is I don't get his like style of leadership at the moment. I mean, again, talking about my guy this game.
Hang on just a second. I did see a moment in the game where he actually became
No,
a
exactly,
leader.
exactly,
Now,
exactly.
I
Yeah.
don't know what was said or whatever, but he at least went over and had a conversation with his receivers. So that one shining moment of him trying to be a leader actually stuck out. So
No, of course, and yeah,
I
I
don't
was,
know.
I was, I was, I was just about to mention that, but like he, I think he's like again the whole like body language doctor or whatever. It's like he like makes a mistake that's objectively is like his fault, and then he's over there like yelling at Tunyon or Samori Toure is like fucking catch the ball, motherfucker, and it's like whoa, dude, like take like take a step back and like fucking like have some self awareness, dude. Like you can't just be bitching out your rookie receivers for making a mistake, or what he perceives as a mistake, when he's the one who's like throwing his horrible balls, bouncing balls off of like linebackers' helmets and getting interception, and like, like it's just so bizarre. And John Kuhn, I'm sure he has a much better idea of what goes on in Green Bay than I do. But there's no way that you can just totally defend him and be like, yeah, no one has an issue with the way Aaron Rodgers plays on this team. Yeah, no, yeah, everyone in the locker room totally like loves the way that he's conducting himself, because there's no way that that can be true. When you have someone who's supposed to be the leader of the team, who's been the captain for like what, over 10 years now, you can't be treating your teammates like that, man. That's so messed up. And I guess you could say credit to him for going over there and talking to his teammates and trying to motivate them a little bit. But I mean, how many times have we even seen that in the past 5 years? Really? I mean, and just because we don't see it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Of course, I would never say that, but you don't see it consistently. You don't see him every game. All right, guys, let's get ready. Big drive coming up. We can do this. Let's do it together. It's like, all right, don't fuck up or I will rip your head off. It's like this such
Well,
a
yeah, that's why I
weird.
said we have no idea what he went over and said to him, but at least visually it looked like he was trying to be a leader.
I just want to say it was like I mean when we had that incomplete pass to Ray in the end zone, the one that he underthrew, his reaction to that was just like so hilarious to watch. I mean, obviously it sucks. I mean, because obviously he's frustrated, but it kind of reminds me of like, you remember when Lazard caught that touchdown against the Lions in his first start, and he had that like funny celebration on the fade touchdown, the really tight ball. And like it's like kind of like Aaron Rodgers like look the exact same. Just the raw frustration was a little bit funny to see, but I mean, definitely understandable. He played horribly this game, and yeah, I think that's probably about all I've got to say about that for now.
And the injuries didn't help the team, and I do have to say that I think everybody's starting to be in agreement that artificial turf needs to go.
Oh,
And
100%.
I,
I don't
I
understand how
mean,
it's
when
still
you've got
around.
players, yeah, when you've got players saying that it's like playing on concrete, it's got to go. So I mean, what was it? 8 injuries in the game, this game alone. One of them being out for the season, another one possibly being out for the season. Yeah, obviously the big news is Rashawn Gary tore his ACL again in non-contact. It was just running on that damn surface. Stokes with a knee and ankle injury, and LaFleur didn't really say what the severity was, but he did say that was the other major injury that they came out of the game with. Aaron Jones with the ankle, but they said that everything came back negative on that, so he should be good to go. Dobbs with a high ankle sprain, and depending on the
Mm,
severity of that, could be anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks. Watson, they thought maybe got another concussion, but they did say that he cleared protocol, but because of the the focus on the concussion protocol, they held him out just out of precaution. Runyon had a knee tweak, but I do believe he went back in.
yeah.
And same for Bakhtiari. Bakhtiari tweaked his knee and went back in. And then Chris Barnes, what'd we say it was? It was a concussion, wasn't it?
I think he might have come back in towards the end, but I mean, I don't think it was a very severe injury. I believe he'll be back playing again next week.
So, I mean, that didn't help out at all.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, this definitely should not have been a game they lost no matter what. But it doesn't look good going forward with all the injuries that they suffered in this game.
Yeah, and yeah, like this, yeah, the whole Sammy Watkins thing. I mean, Jesus Christ, man, I am so over
He's
it.
done.
And
I gotta say he's got to
yeah,
go.
he's cooked. He's washed with a capital W. I mean, man, like the last time he was on the field, he still showed a little bit of something. Like I don't think anyone expected him to be who he was, but like man, it is rough out there. Even just mentally running the wrong routes, not seeing the defense very well, and he's just like oh, man, it's just disgusting to watch. I mean, I don't see any reason to keep him on the roster besides just filling the spot because we have like 5 injured receivers at the moment. I mean, next week will be a good opportunity for Christian Watson to step up because he's going to be the wide receiver one in all likelihood next to Alan Lazard. But I mean, yeah, it's just so rough, man. Like someone who's supposed to be a veteran presence, supposed to be one of Rogers' guys. I mean, just like, dude, like have some pride. It's crazy.
One, I have to believe that Goody is going to be doing a lot of calling of people still on the street. I was trying to do something real quick while you were talking just to see if I could pull up a list of guys that were
Calling up Odell.
available. I I really think that they'd have to
Hello?
be pounding the table for him at this point, just
Oh yeah.
because. Uh,
I mean, I imagine that Odell's doing what every other person does with Green Bay, and he's just using them as leverage. I don't see any reason why they would sign with him, especially because he wants an extension, right? He wants something like the guy from Dallas, Gallup. He wants a deal like that, right? So something like 3 years, 40 million, and I don't think Green Bay would do that. First off, and I mean, I don't see why he would sign with Green Bay if he's going to be playing with like Jordan Love or a rookie quarterback in the next couple of years.
well, the reason why he'd sign with them is if they gave him the kind of contract he'd want. I mean, that's the same reason why Charles Woodson signed here when he did was it, he was getting the contract he wanted, and that was the only team that was willing to give him what he wanted. So, I
Yeah.
mean, it that would be the reason for it. And I mean, this is where you need your supposed leader of the team to step up and do some recruitment. But yeah, I was trying to see, and this is unverified, so I really don't know if it's
Yeah.
legit or if there's still people. But I mean, T.Y. Hilton, Will Fuller. I mean, they're not sexy names by no
Fuller is
means,
retired.
but
Fuller is retired.
did
So
he? Okay.
yeah.
Um. So like I said, this isn't verified. This was just a real quick search. Isaiah Ford,
I'd
Sanu, I
be.
think
I'd be.
retired.
Yeah, I think Sanu retired as well. I'd be interested in just kicking the tires on T.Y. Hilton.
John Ross. Uh,
So Sammy
I mean,
Watkins
they're
basically.
not. Well, I mean, they're not sexy names by no means, but it's got to be better than what's going on right now. Again, Lazard's nursing a shoulder injury. Watkins is toasted. Watson is struggling with injuries. Dobbs is out. I mean, everybody's pretty much given up on Amari. Then you got Torre, and then you got a few guys on the practice squad. So I mean, they're gonna have to do something at some point. And being that the trade deadline's done, they're not gonna get it that way. So
Well, I've been thinking about this for a little bit. There was a receiver that we saw kind of flash the last game, and he was like wide open when he was given opportunities. And you know, if we have someone like Zach Tom who can fill in at left tackle as a starter, and Josh Nyman at right tackle, I mean, why don't we just start David Bakhtiari at wide receiver? He was wide
he'd be
open,
more the
man.
tight end.
He was wide
I
open.
think I know, but I think he's lost a little bit of step on the speed, so I think he'd have to fill in at like uh tight end. Put a little bit of chip block out there. I'd be for it.
I mean, yeah, he would definitely be a good blocker in the pass game. I'll tell you that much.
And I mean, this isn't even looking at what's on practice squads. I'm sure there's a lot of guys out on the practice squads the Packers could potentially be trying to call up, or I mean, trying to bring in. I saw, what was it? The Saints elevated Kevin White, who, and that's not a sexy name by no means, but who knows? Maybe the reason
Mm.
why they brought him up was Green Bay was trying to poach him. Um, Tyler Johnson had a good rookie year, but then really kind of struggled the
Yeah,
last couple. I
that'd be
think
a fun
he's
one
on
actually.
Tampa. I think he's on Tampa Bay's practice squad. So I mean, there's practice squad guys out there that they could even call up. So they've just got to do something. I really don't see where they can't bring in somebody, and it can't be just some scrub undrafted free agent that hasn't played a snap in the NFL. It's going to have to be somebody who's has some kind of experience.
Ty Freifogel. Yeah, he's the solution, I think.
Or what's the other one? Fulgham.
Yeah, Travis Fulgham.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah, yeah.
I'm surprised we haven't seen him yet.
Or Devin Funchess even. I mean, I wouldn't be too mad with that, to be honest. But
He's not a
yeah.
wide receiver anymore. Remember, he converted to tight end.
Oh, did he? Okay, I totally forgot about that. Yes, I mean, look, for me, that's all I really have to say about this game. I think everyone is quite aware it's disappointing. I mean, practically morale-wise, nail in the coffin. I mean, just brutal to not score any more than 9 points against the worst defense in the league, like by far. It is a pretty showing performance, really, of like where this team is at. I think there is just so much work that needs to be done, and so much ground that needs to be made up now that key players are gone from the defense. I mean, yeah, like no Gary, like I said before, is just such a massive, like horrible loss for this defense. And not everyone is the biggest fan of Stokes this season, but he's still a starter at the end of the day. He's still a player, like a core player of that defense. It's going to be hard to replace him in those snaps where someone's coming off the field and getting a bit of a break. Instead, you have Keyshawn Nixon filling in the slot, and maybe this means a bit more playing time for like a Darnell Savage in the slot potentially, but it's going to be tough. Like they're going to have to adjust, and depending on like how long he's out, it's just going to be like it's just going in another hole in a roster that is already full of holes.
This is going to sound really bad, but maybe there's a silver lining to Stokes getting hurt.
Rasul on the outside
Uh,
more.
yeah, Razul on the outside a little bit more, Nixon or Savage or whoever in the slot, but also Stokes really hasn't been playing great this year, so maybe this allows him to, while he's rehab. Again, we don't even know what the injury is at this point. I know they're saying ankle, knee, but they are not really getting into any specifics. I don't figure they will until midweek, but if he's out for an extended amount of time, maybe this will help him clear his head and come back better. So, there is a little bit of a silver lining there.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and with that, I'm happy to get into the next game: Packers versus Cowboys. Mike
Do we
McCarthy.
have to?
Yes. I mean, look, before the way this season panned out, this was going to be one of my favorite games of the season to watch, and it's just such a shame that this offense is just so bad, because I think this would have been so much fun if the Packers actually had some kind of substance on this team. But I mean, like I said, Mike McCarthy comes back to Lambeau Field. I think we've kind of had a bit of that magic playing in Dallas for so long, where we just seem to pull these like crazy wins out of our ass, or we just flat out dominate them. And I think having this game be at Lambeau is kind of just the way this season's been going, right? I mean, we're not going to have much luck on our side. The Mike McCarthy revenge game, whatever you want to call it, any way you slice it, this Cowboys team is good, and I mean like really good. They honestly are one of my probably favorite two picks to win the Super Bowl for the NFC. This defense is just suffocating. Dak Prescott is a good quarterback. They have great receivers. The offensive line isn't as good as it has been in years past, but they still have guys on that line, and it's going to be brutal. It's going to be brutal. What do you think?
I mean, the Packers have a few things going for them. They have, even though he's not been playing great. I mean, they still have the reigning MVP. It is at Lambeau, so they are going to have somewhat of the home crowd behind them. Aaron Jones has typically been a real big asset against the Cowboys. So I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say, "Oh yeah, the Packers are going to come out and dominate and win 42-0." No, that ain't going to happen. But I mean, there, even though it's a slim chance, there is still a chance there, being it is on their home turf. You would have to think they're not just gonna lay over, beings they're on a 5-game skid right now. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. And I I wish it was under better circumstances, but it is what it is. So
Yeah,
I really don't know what to say about it, just because I if I wish the game would have been last year, because it would have been a little bit more amazing to see. But hindsight 2020, the way the season is going. So
yeah.
I
I I think the Packers' path to winning this game, if they ever do, is going to be what they kind of intended coming into this season, which is the run game and a good defense. And I think we can probably bet money that that won't be showing up anytime soon. But when you look at the strengths of this Cowboys team, this, like I said, this defense is just like incredible. I mean, the guys they have playing for them and the level that they're playing at, it's so much fun to watch. I mean, Dan Quinn, someone who was thought as maybe his time was over. He like a little bit of an outdated coach schematically. Has kind of reinvented himself a little bit and rejuvenated this defense. And obviously you have such an injection of talent. Like just last year they drafted Osa Odigizua. I'm really bad at pronouncing that last name, but I really wanted the Packers to draft him. They pulled out Anthony Barr. They have Micah Parsons, who is one of my favorite players in the league to watch. He is so much fun to watch. DeMarcus Lawrence back on the edge, this performing so well as usual. Trayvon Diggs continues to improve, and I can't even make those jokes about how bad he is anymore because he's actually playing even better. And like this is a complete defense. They don't really have any weaknesses, and with the receivers that we have, good luck getting open against that. And when you have Micah Parsons screaming off the edge in under half a second, good luck having time to throw the ball. I mean, it's going to be really, really difficult to score points on this offense unless something drastically changes and unless they can kind of space out this defense a bit by having a strong run game. So it's going to be really difficult.
Any game is going to be really difficult the rest of the season. But like I said, like I keep repeating, any given Sunday, anything could happen. And I mean, who knows? The football gods could be looking down and say, "Hey, we're going to give you a one this week." So,
I hope so.
it, but having dealt with Mike McCarthy for, what was it, 11 years, 10 years, he has a tendency to overlook teams that are struggling. So I'm not saying it's going to happen or whatever, because he is going to want the revenge for the way he got booted in,
Absolutely.
at the end of his tenure. But it wouldn't be outside the realm for him to overlook what the Packers are right now. And, who knows? Maybe Rodgers will, lay off the drugs for the week and, get his mind clear to where he'll be pinpoint accurate again. But I will. It would not surprise me to. Well, I can't say that because they've hyped the hell out of the game. But it would not have surprised me if they would have flexed this game out of the game of the week. But they spent
Yeah.
too much time hyping this game to not leave it where it's at.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, no, for sure. I think, that's kind of where I think the path for the Packers to succeed is with if they can somehow take advantage of that Dallas offense and maybe that cornerback switch up, like you said, might somehow be a little bit better for them in some ways, kind of forcing them to change things up. And like, let's say we kind of stop them a little bit on offense and it comes down to our defense being able to make a play, and if we have our offense decides to run the ball a bit more, and renowned cowboy killer Aaron Jones is like taking over the game. Looking through the statistics throughout the season, Dallas defense is they're actually a bottom 10 team in terms of yards per rush, rushes per game, and rush yards per game. So I mean, look, this is like if you want to look at a glimpse of brightness or hope, this is where it's at, man. I mean, look, Aaron Jones loves to just dunk on the Cowboys. So if we could bust off like an old school like 150 yarder, 3 touchdown, 4 touchdown game, I mean, no complaints from me at all.
Let's bring back the Packers sweep. Let's have the ghost of Vince Lombardi show up and let's get that Packers sweep going. I'd be all for it, but I, yeah, and like I've said before, and I know we kind of had the disagreement on this too, but run let the run game pound, but actually throw in the play action, because eventually the Cowboys are gonna do kind of what Detroit did and said, okay, run on us, but or we're gonna stack the box and make you try to throw on us. So I mean, I would like to see them do a little bit more play action, get the run game going, and play it like that instead of trying to hit the deep ball all the time, because the deep ball is just not there right now.
For sure, for sure. And I think, yeah, with the last of these kind of previews of the game, I just want to finish up with as we do every single week. A quick note on our guys for this game. I'm going on with Toure, as you've probably noticed. I've just been ragging on about him the whole entire show. I mean, he's exciting to watch, man. He's a young, explosive, he's energetic, and he's so smart and so savvy. I mean, if Rodgers gets more time to kind of get more of those plays, and he actually sees the field a bit better this time, it seems like he kind of trusts Toure a little bit to just kind of like throw a ball in his general direction and hope that he adjusts to it, right? So I think if he gets like a larger role in this offense, given the injuries that we have, I think that he could do some really nice things, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he gets a touchdown, or even just a sneaky little like 40 or 50 yards. I think it would be great and a good start for him to establish himself on a good defense.
But he just didn't understand why he was a healthy scratch for most of the season. If I had to choose one, my guy would probably be Kingsley Enigbare, just because with Rashawn going down, we'll see how he can step up. Again, I really think Green Bay is going to be pounding the street to find anybody to fill some spots. So there could be a change, pretty soon in a rotation with Kingsley and some guy off the street or whatever. But right now, Kingsley is probably the guy I'm going to look at with Rashawn going down.
Yeah, and like again, he's also a very exciting young player. I mean, I think both of us loved him coming out of the draft, and he's someone who is like a little bit of like a Zadarius clone, right? And someone's very technical, and it'll be interesting to see how he matches up with someone like Tyler Smith on the Cowboys O line, that young left tackle who's a real like big strong guy, but. Maybe Kingsley can kind of, give him a little bit of a move, a bit of a sneaky, 1-2 buckle my shoe, get around a couple times. Like you said, any given Sunday, anything can happen, and he's going to be a starter now. So it'd be really cool to see him step up and see what he can do for us coming into the next couple of seasons.
We'll see. It's going to be quite the game.
Yeah. And if you want to finish up again, as always, over or unders, pick your best three, and we'll see how we go, because I think some of these are going to be pretty low.
Well, I'm tempted to go with all my joke ones just because
these are all actually pretty funny
though. We'll do 3.5 over under 3.5 references to the Dez non-catch. Now, obviously, this is talking about the broadcast and whatever. 3.5 over under for references to the Dez Bryant non-catch. I'm taking over because they're going to pound it all to death.
Absolutely. I was going to say with the amount of passes our receivers have been dropping and a little bit of a struggle. I mean, it'll come up at some point, you know. And I think they love. Do you know who's the broadcast crew? Is it Buck and Aikman again?
Well, no, it won't be Buck and Aikman because they're not on Fox. It probably Burkhart and Olson.
Oh,
I think that's who they're.
I mean, but yeah, it would. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna go over. I'm gonna hit the over.
Well, here we'll even add this one in there. 1.5 injuries for this game, with as many as we suffered this past game. 1.5 for this game.
I'm gonna go over. Sorry, under.
I'll just say over, just because that's the luck they've been having lately.
I mean, neither would surprise me, right? And your last one?
Do I do serious or do I do another joke one? We'll do another joke one. 2.5 underthrown passes by Aaron Rodgers.
Easily over. I mean, easily. The way he's been playing, dude, I wouldn't be surprised with like 5.
I'm going to say under, and the reason why I did this specifically was because I have a feeling this game he's going to overcompensate and they're going to be overshots.
Could you imagine?
He's going to overthrow the guys instead of underthrow them.
Yeah.
No, I don't see it's going to be a high pick game. I just think he's going to overshoot everybody.
I think he's definitely going to get at least 1 pick this game. Just the way this Dallas defense plays, I would be surprised if he comes out with no picks. And he's going to need to play a bit of hero ball because the receivers aren't going to be as open as he wants them to be in his imagination. So, yeah. One of these ones that I kind of want to steal, I just want to talk about the points on this game. So you have your over-under set at 13.5. Honestly, I want to propose my own, and that is, do they score more or less than 1 touchdown? Do you think they're even capable of scoring any touchdowns? I mean, if it was me, I would set it at even like 6.5. What do you feel?
No, I think they'll get 2. I think they'll get
reckon?
1. Yeah, I have a feeling what'll happen is if they come out and shit the bed again, they'll get 1 touchdown, and then late in the game they'll get a junk time touchdown. They're always good for at least 1 junk time touchdown. So that's why I kind of set it at 13.5 on my sheet.
Really? Honestly, yeah. I would bet that they probably score. I wouldn't feel confident in betting over more than 6 points scored for the Packers in this game. And just because I said that now, they're probably going to go and score 35. But I mean, yeah, I don't have very much faith in this offense to score against this defense, as you could probably tell.
Well, and you got to think it's not just the offense either, because I mean, Jair could easily take one to the house. Rasul could easily take one to the house. So I mean, I set it at 13.5 because, like I said, they're going to get at least 1 touchdown to make it seem like they're being relevant. Then the Cowboys are probably going to go on a run, and then the Packers will get a junk time touchdown.
I could definitely see it. But I'm not going to bet on it.
Chicken.
But yeah, I think that's kind of where we're at for this game. The fact that these are all not stat related, I think is just kind of telling where this team is at. I mean, we're going to try and keep things fun and interesting every single week by talking about some more of the positives than just ragging on Aaron Rodgers every single week. But
I think the Packers just rag on him.
The Packers are definitely not going to make it very easy to have other things to talk about. So yeah, I think that's going to be all from us this week, guys. Next week, we may have a bit of a secret, super special guest who's also going to try and bring a bit more life and, either it's going to be a bit more energy or we're all just going to be collectively like screaming at Aaron Rodgers once again all together. And it's just going to get even worse around here. So tune in next week and find out, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it should be a good show next week. I think it'll be an enjoyable one. So far, we're 1 for 1 for enjoyable guests.
Exactly. So yeah, guys, as always, you can find us on Twitter at NicholasGRGR and at Iowa_Joe86. And of course, podcast account is at Outback_Packers. Until next time, see you later.